What is up, guys? Alex here from technoclass.com, coming to you with a full review of the Asus Zenfone Max. This is a pretty cool phone because it has a large 5000 milliamp hour battery. Now, fundamentally, the specs are about the same as the original Zenfone 2 Laser 5.5 right here, but it does also have a nice new design. I'll show you that later, but obviously the important spec here is the 5000 milliamp hour battery, which gives this phone about 2 to 3 days battery life, which is super duper great. Now, the price on this guy is $8,495, and you're getting the Snapdragon 410 quad core, a 5.5 HD Gorilla Glass 4 display, and all that bells and whistles that come with Asus phones. Now, we're gonna do the review after the break. We'll see you guys in just a bit. Alright, so like I said before, the Zenfone Max has a nice 5000 milliamp hour battery and this really cool leatherette back design. This comes with the black variant. The white variant has a matte back. Anyway, comparing the size to the original Zenfone 2 Laser 5.5, it is quite similar but slightly bigger and sort of bulgier on the corners there or the sides, but it is a different, cooler design. In my opinion, a nice evolution of the Zenfone design. Alright, so here's what's inside the box of the Zenfone Max. As you can see, we have a micro USB cable for charging and data transfer. We have a 3.5mm headset with some earbuds on it, a 5.2 volt 1 amp charger, the phone itself, and I believe you'll have a couple of paperwork, some customer service hotlines and stuff like that. We don't have it because this is not the retail box. Alright guys, so here is the Asus Zenfone Max, looking quite nice with that 5.5-inch HD Gorilla Glass 4 display. Now, like I said, it does look very identical to the Zenfone 2 Laser, except for the back here and the sides. The front is quite similar, including the buttons right here. As you can see, we have a 5.5-inch HD 1280 by 720p IPS display. We have a speaker grill right there, Asus logo right there, the 5-megapixel front-facing camera, and hidden somewhere there are the proximity and light sensitivity sensors. Over here we have a home button, recent key, the back button, and all that is all colored in some sort of silvery color that doesn't light up, unfortunately. Alright, so checking out the sides of the phone, this is a new part of the design. As you can see, there is now a sort of a curved back design compared to this sort of flat, nondescript design of the old versions. But it is a sort of metallic color, probably like a chrome color here. We have the micro USB port and a microphone on the bottom. On the right side is the new power and volume rocker. That is sort of slightly textured so you can easily find them. That is the Asus sort of Zen Touch. And on top we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Alright, so as you may or may not recall, the previous version of this design required the power button to be on top right there. There would be no buttons on the sides, and the volume rocker would be underneath the camera. That is now moved to make space for a nicer design, in my opinion. At the back, you'll see the biggest change to this design. Now we have this luxurious leatherette feeling texture in the back. This is plastic, but it is very soft touch and feels really nice in the hand, kind of very premium. We have a speaker grill right there, a Zenfone badge right there, a nice silver Asus logo right there, and this is our camera module. We have a noise cancellation microphone, a dual tone flash, the 13-megapixel camera, and over here is the laser autofocus module. And despite the fact that it's not called the Asus Zenfone Max Laser or something like that, it does inherit the Zenfone Laser's laser autofocus for faster focusing, and it does work quite a bit. Underneath the back, we have your standard SIM 1, SIM 2 slot, and a micro SD card slot for expanding your storage. And here is our 5000 milliamp hour battery, which unfortunately you can't remove from the body. Last thing about this design is that there's a LED notification light to the right of the speaker. Alright guys, so I think that's about it for the design of the Zenfone Max, and I think it is one of the best designs Asus have come up with for their phones. It is a nice looking phone. despite the fact that the old version is a really nice looking phone either way. I think the motion to move the buttons to the right side of the phone is a nice change, and the leather at back is also very, very nice. Obviously, it's a much better replacement for the power button now, even though there's still the double tap to wake if you want it to. Anyway, the phone looks really, really nice. The front is the same as the original design right here. But the back and the sides make it a nice looking phone and nice feeling too. By the way, this is slightly heavier than most phones, of course, than even the Zenfone 5.5, because it is 202 grams with a large 5000 milliamp hour battery, which makes it heftier to the hand, but it does not make it uncomfortable to hold. So yeah, kudos to Asus for designing a very nice phone. One thing to note, by the way, this is the black variant of the Zenfone Max. The white variant does not have the leather at back. It does have a matte back, but it does have some sort of gold accents when it comes to the buttons, to the logos and stuff like that. So if you prefer gold, that's the one to go with, the white one. Alright, so it's time to talk about the software of the Zenfone Max, and it's pretty much the same story as every single Zenfone 2 variant from before. The Zen UI is still the same, but it's still very, very good. It is a smooth UI and it's easily navigatable. There's the app drawer as well. It is quite customizable. Lots of options like wallpapers or animations and stuff like that are available, and that makes it a very highly customizable and very smooth UI. That being said, though, this is still a Snapdragon 410 processor with 2 gigs of RAM, which means the UI interface is probably around 45 to 50 FPS, not a super smooth 60, but still quite good and still responsive. Now, the 2 gigs of RAM will affect how you will multitask on this phone, and sometimes you will, when you're exiting apps, it will load the home screen back and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is still quite smooth, and I'm going to give this a UI smoothness score of A-, which is still pretty high. Now, this being an Asus Zenfone product, you will notice a lot of potentially unwanted programs, or PUPs. And we've had to disable quite a lot of them because we weren't using them and didn't find them, you know, all that good to have on the menus. So we've disabled them. But yeah, typically all Asus phones since the Zenfone 2 have had a lot of PUPs, unwanted programs. Some people would even call them bloatware. I myself would usually call them that. But if you're not, you know, somebody who cares a lot or OCD about their, you know, apps installed, then it doesn't seem to be so bad. All right, so when checking out the camera here, as you can see, we are greeted by the tried and true Asus camera app that works quite well in our opinion. It does have a lot of features, and that's something people will really appreciate. Even the beautification modes is something that is quite nice. Now, as you can see, we are using the laser autofocus feature right now, and it does focus quite fast. So the app itself is really nice, and there are even low light modes, QR scanning, super resolution and stuff like that to satisfy even the hungriest camera photographer out there. There's even manual mode if you want to delve into it further. Now, speaking of the photos taken with this camera, the 13 megapixel from on the back and the 5 megapixel in front, they're actually quite respectable and quite usable in a lot of situations, especially for social media sharing. The 13 megapixel BSI camera on the back is a Toshiba sensor, and the front one is a 5 megapixel camera. The laser autofocus works well and shoots fast, focuses fast in low light, and the front facing camera is no slouch either. I'm going to give both of these cameras a score of about 7 out of 10, which is quite above average for this price point, and it's very reliable at least, and the camera app helps a lot too. Alright, so now we're playing a game called Modern Combat 5. This is a slightly lower res version of the game because we are playing it on a Snapdragon 410, but it does perform well. It doesn't, you know, frame skip a lot. As you can see, I'd say it was just hovering about 25 FPS on that little scene right there. We're going to blow up this door. That dropped a little bit of frames, but as you can see, we're still shooting dudes. I'm going to hopefully get the phone in focus first. There we go. As you can see, it is quite playable. There's nothing to complain about, especially since we're using a Snapdragon 410 with a large battery, so you'll be able to play much longer than your typical phone at least. Alright guys, so here we are playing a game called GTA San Andreas, and you'll notice this is where the actual processor, the Snapdragon 410, draws a line where it does not seem to be running the game as good as it can. So we're just gonna lower the processing, the settings here, lower everything to the lowest setting here, off, and we're gonna go back to the game, and I'll show you that it's still quite playable on the lowest setting. Just don't go with the default setting because it is too high for the processor. As you can see, we'll try and steal a car right here and drive it around. It's playable at this point at the lowest settings with the Snapdragon 410, and we're now wanted by the police. Here we go. As you can see, the frame rate is now quite playable. I would say it's drifting around 30 to 40 FPS right now, and it doesn't, you know, the lower quality of the graphics is not detrimental to the gameplay too much. And it's only a lot of cosmetic options that we disabled. So there you go, pretty nice gaming capability. Not the best when it comes to gaming. Like I said, it's a Snapdragon 410, so don't expect too much. But as you can see, the speakers are pretty good as well. There's a police guy. So there you go, that's the gaming capabilities of the Zenfone Max. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the most important question with regards to this phone, is the battery life. And the battery life does not disappoint at all. It is a very long-lasting phone. As you can see here on our battery benchmark, it got 10 hours and 41 minutes, compared to most phones who have been getting about 6 hours maximum with 3000 milliamp hour batteries. This is a very long lasting phone, and under normal use we get up about 2 to 3 days with LTE, Wi-Fi, everything Bluetooth on, no complaints. As far as the other performance aspects of the phone that include Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LTE signals and stuff like that, they're pretty good. The call and text quality, the call quality is pretty good as well. And it doesn't overheat because it is a Snapdragon 410 processor. It does not, you know, bring the temperature up to a uncomfortable level. So yeah, performance on this phone is pretty decent, if not screaming though, because it's only a Snapdragon 410 with 2 gigs of RAM. Still not bad though. Alright, so I think that's about it for our full review of the Zenfone Max. We're going to talk about the pros and cons now, to talk about what we think of the phone. Number one, pro is that I think it's a well-built, nice evolution of the Zenfone UI design. The front is still classic Zenfone, but the sides and back are now a nice, you know, more luxurious feeling phone to the touch and to the, you know, design, the looks. Number two, the UI is still, regardless of how much bloat it comes with, it's still a very nice customizable UI, and all of the Zenphones have this similar UI that gives it a nice uniform look and feel with a lot of features and customization options. Number three is above average camera and a laser autofocus. At this price range of about 8,500 pesos, that kind of feature is rare to get, especially on phones that are sacrificing a lot more, like the camera quality and stuff like that, for, you know, bigger numbers on their spec sheets. And last pro is the 2 to 3 day battery life, which nothing can beat it right now. I mean, there will be other phones that will have large batteries, but as for the design and large battery features, this is probably one of the best looking large battery phones available. As far as the cons are concerned, obviously it's not the best for gaming. Like I showed you with GTA San Andreas, the frame rate is not perfect, but that's because you're using a slightly lower Snapdragon 410 processor that sort of saves battery, but is not, you know, the highest in terms of gaming. But that said, you can still play a lot of games like Clash of Clans and other simpler 3D games, and GTA San Andreas is even playable at the lowest setting. Number two con is that there's a lot of Asus, you know, potentially unwanted programs or bloatware. This is still one of the biggest complaints we have with Asus phones. We don't think it's going to change anytime soon. So if you can live with the bloatware, then you're perfectly fine. It doesn't bother us that much, but just that we know there are options out there that have less bloat. Last con to this phone is a side effect of the large battery. Now, given that it is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, it takes quite a while to charge, so slow charging times, especially with the included charger, which is 1 amp only. It would be nice if you were given a 2 amp charger to charge it quite faster, but it does not support, faster charging. Fast charging is 2 amps upwards, and this does not have a 2 amp charger. It has 1 amp. So there you go. All right, so that's about it for our pros and cons of the Zenfone Max. We think it's a really nice phone, a really nice pickup for 8,500 pesos, especially for people who are looking for large batteries or long-lasting phones. And there will be people who will be looking for that, people who are weekend warriors or spend a long time outside without being able to charge their phones. A 5,000 milliamp hour battery is a lifesaver for a lot of people. So definitely consider checking this phone out. Now, overall, the Zenfone Max doesn't particularly specialize in one feature, but is above average in most aspects like UI, the camera, and its, decent gaming capability. Of course, where it excels is, like we said, in the newly revamped design and excellent battery life. There will be phones with newer bells and whistles like, octa-core processors, fingerprint scanners, etc. But the Zenfone Max holds its own. Taking all those positive points to consideration, we are going to give the Zenfone Max a highly recommended award, particularly because it brings us the laser autofocus of the Laser series with large battery and a nice price point and design to boot. So it is very easy to recommend. It's a nice phone to just tell your friends and family that you should pick one up, particularly because a lot of people will definitely complain about battery life, and the Max will likely solve that issue. So there you have it. Alex from TechnoClass.com here. Thanks for watching this review of the Zenfone Max, and we'll see you guys next time.